Hi everyone, welcome back to my YouTube channel. If you have not subscribed to my channel, don't forget to subscribe. And today I'll be showing you how to crochet this shrug. And also I've made a tutorial for the skirt that I'm wearing. The link is on my description box, so you can just go ahead and make the outfit and let's get started. Following the requirement to make this shrug, I'll be using a white color yarn and it's a robin yarn. It's a 50-gram weight yarn. Then I'll be using a 3.5mm hook. You also require a measuring tape and a pair of scissors. Start by making the sleeves for the shrug. So let's get started. We start by making the sleeves for this shrug. So first thing, take the measurement of your arm around the armpit. So mine is at 14 inches. I'll be crocheting a size of 14 inches, and we start by making a slip knot as usual, and 14 inches are equal to 70 stitches. So I'll be chaining 70 stitches. So make a slip stitch, then after that insert the hook onto that big loop over there, tighten the loop, then after that chain 70 stitches. Just chain 70 stitches, then after that I'll be here to show you what to do next. After chaining the 70 stitches, you just chain one more. So just chain one more stitch. Then after that you are going to slip stitch onto the other side to join the round together. So just slip stitch onto the first stitch over here. So I don't know why this is a bit difficult. So just slip stitch. Then after slip stitching, you just chain 13. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. After chaining 13, we'll be skipping 5 stitches. Then after the 5 stitches, we'll be placing a slip stitch onto the 6th stitch. So let me count the number of stitches. This is my first stitch over here, second, third, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Then onto the 6th stitch, I'll be making a slip stitch. Then after making a slip stitch, chain again 13. After chaining 13 stitches, you count 5 stitches. Then onto the 6th stitch, you'll be making a slip stitch. So just place a slip stitch onto the 13th stitch, onto the 6th stitch. Then after that, again chain 13. Then onto the 6th stitch, place a slip stitch. So this is my 6th stitch and I'm going to place a slip stitch on it. Then after that, you are going to repeat the same pattern, chain 13. Then after chaining 13, skip the 5 stitches and onto the 6th stitch, make a slip stitch. So repeat this until you reach almost at the end of this row. Then after that, I'll be here to show you what to do next. I'm almost completing this round. I'm remaining with about 4 stitches. So what I'm going to do, I'll just chain 13 as usual. So this is my first, second, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. So after achieving the 13 stitches, I'm just going to slip stitch onto the top of this stitch that we made over here. So just slip stitch onto this stitch over here. Then after that, you'll be chaining 13. So chain 13 stitches, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. So after chaining 13, we are going to slip stitch on top of this big loop that we made. Then after that, chain 13 again. So that is the pattern that you'll be doing. You'll be chaining 13, then you make a slip stitch onto the top of this loop that we made. So after that, after slip stitching, you chain again 13, then make a slip stitch onto the next loop that we made. Then after slip stitching, chain again 13, then after that slip stitch on top of this chain that we made. So that is the pattern that you're repeating until you achieve the length that you want for your sleeve. So you just will be working in a spiral way, so we'll just be moving around, we'll be moving around the sleeves until we'll be moving around the sleeve until you achieve the measurement that you desire for the sleeve. So I think this pattern is so easy. So you just chain 13 stitches, then after chaining 13, you just slip stitch on the top of this big loop that you made. So chain 13 again. After chaining 13 stitches, slip stitch on top of this stitch that we made. So chain again 13. So that is the pattern that we'll be working on. So just repeat for a few rows. Then after that, I'll be showing you how my pattern is looking, so that you can compare to find out if you are in the right direction or if you are going in the wrong direction. So just repeat for about 3 rows. I will be making this for about more 3 rows, then I'll be here to show you how the pattern looks. After a couple of rows, you should have something like this. So this is where we started by chaining 70 stitches, and this is the lower part that I'm making. So you should have something like this. So repeat until you achieve the length that you want for the sleeve. After a couple of rows, this is how my sleeve looks. So it's a bit long. This is how the lower part of the sleeve looks. I really like it. I have made 2 sleeves, so ensure that you make 2 sleeves. Of course, you are going to make 2 sleeves. So make 2 sleeves. Then after that, I'll be guiding you on how to do what to do next. I have my 2 sleeves. I'll be chaining 12 inches. That is what I will be working on this. Then after that, I'll go as I'm increasing the number of chains. So so guys, I completed making this shrug. So I thought, first of all, I thought of making it while explaining to you. And at first, I told you this is the first shrug that I've made using this pattern. So after that, I thought of completely making the shrug first. Then after that, explaining to you how I made it. And here it is. It turned out so super cute. I'll be guiding you on how to make this shrug. So the first thing that you have to know is taking the measurement, like I've shown you on that clip over there. So the first thing that you have to know is taking your measurement from one shoulder to another. So that is the measurement that you are going to take. Then the second important thing that you have to know is where to place your chain or where to attach your chain on the sleeve. So that is the second important thing that you have to know. So the third thing is we'll be increasing the number of chains as you are going down the shrug. So that is not that important because we all have different measurement for our top. So let's get into it. It's so simple, so don't put a mentality that it's hard. It's a bit simple, so let's get into it. First thing that you have to make is to make a round of single crochet on the top of the sleeve. So the top of the sleeve is the part where we started making the sleeve. So I remember that you never made any row of single crochet. So make a row of single crochet and you should have something like this. So after completing a row of single crochet, let's move to the next part. After making a round of single crochet on the top of the sleeve, and the top of the sleeve is where we started to make the sleeve. So after making that, we'll get into the next part. So this is after making the single crochet on top of the both sleeve. So as you can see, mine I've made a round of single crochet in each and every sleeve. So let's get into the next part. Guys, we are not making a back panel for this shrug, so I'll just be guiding you like I'm making a back panel, but I would advise you to only make a front panel for this top so that it can be a bit easy for you and it can be a bit simple for you to wear it. So I'll be guiding you on this shrug that I've already made. So you should so omit this part. we'll be working on the 2 sleeves. So first thing, attach your yarn on any stitch of the shrug. So let me attach mine, then after that I'll be guiding you on what to do next. So I've already attached the yarn to this stitch over here. So after attaching the yarn to the stitch, you are going to chain the measurement that you took. For example, for me, I'll be chaining 60 stitches. Then after that, I'll be showing you what to do next. So just chain the measurement that you took, the measurement that you took from one shoulder to the other. Then after that, I'll be showing you how to attach the chain to the next stitch. So after chaining 60 stitches, I'm just going to slip stitch onto this stitch over here. So after making the chain, you don't have to slip stitch onto the opposite stitch. You can just slip stitch onto any stitch that you want. So just slip stitch on the single crochet. Don't forget you have to slip stitch onto the single crochet that you made. So I'm just going to slip stitch onto this single crochet on this point, on a specific single crochet. So just slip, I'm just going to slip stitch onto that single crochet over there. Then after that, I'm just going again to chain 60 stitches, and you are going, I'm just going again to chain 60 stitches. So let me chain 60 stitches. Then after that, I'll be slip stitching onto this stitch that we start. I'm just going to slip stitch onto this, onto the same stitch on where we attach the yarn. Hope that is clear. So after chaining 60 stitches, after slip stitching them onto this stitch over here, we are going again to chain 60 stitches. Then after that, slip stitch it again onto where you are attached the yarn. I've completed chaining 60, so I've made 2 chains of 60. So after that, I'm just going to slip stitch onto this stitch where we had attached the yarn. So these two chains should come from one stitch. So I'm just going to slip stitch onto the chain, onto the single crochet, onto the same single crochet. Then after that, I'm just going to chain 60 again. So we'll repeat this until you have a total of 10 chains coming from one single crochet. So these all 10 chains should come from this one single crochet over here, and also they should be slip stitch onto one single crochet on this side. So hope that it's clear. So just repeat making 10 chains of 60, and they should come from one single crochet on this point, and they should end on one single crochet onto this other point. So I'll not exactly make the 10 chains that I've told you, because this is just a guideline of what I'm making, and I already made my shrug. So this is just a guideline. So after making 10 rows of 60 stitches, you are going to move on to the next stitch. So what you are going to do, you skip this stitch over here. So just skip the single crochet over here, then slip stitch onto the next single crochet. So that is what you are going to do. Then after that, we are going to increase the number of stitches that you have made. So remember, on these stitches we chain 60, on the next stitches we'll be chaining 65. So if you are petite like me, increase them by 5 stitches. But if you are a bit thick, you can just increase them by 10 stitches or 8 stitches. So I'm just on to this stitch, you'll be making 65 stitches. So I've told you the other measurement what you are going to do. So just chain 65 stitches. So I'm just going to chain 65 stitches. Then after that, I'll be here to show you what to do next. And guys, while making this top, don't forget to fit it on so that you can find out if it's fitting you before completing making it. So just always try it on to find out if your measurements are perfect. And if you do that, the top will come out perfectly, as more than mine. So after chaining 65 stitches, we are just going to slip stitch onto this next stitch. So we skip a stitch, then slip stitch onto the next stitch. So let me align my top properly. So this is the stitch. We are going to work onto this stitch over here. So this is the stitch that we made 10 stitches or 10 chains, 10 chains of 60 stitches. So after that, we are going to skip this stitch and we are just going to slip stitch onto this stitch. After slip stitching, you are going to chain. After slip stitching, you are going to chain 65 again. Then after that, slip stitch onto this stitch where you started making the 65 stitches. So we'll be working now on this stitch. All the 65 stitches should come from this point and they should end on this other point. So repeat this for the next 10 row, for the next 10 65 stitches. So we are going to make 10 I don't know what to say, but you should have 10 chains of 65 stitches. So repeat that, then after that I'll be here to show you what to do next. So after completing making 10 rows of 65 stitches, we are going to skip on to the next part. And if you want the top, if you want the chains to be a bit bushy, you can just increase the number of chains. So if you have made 10 rows of, if you have made 10 rows of the stitches, you should make about 15 rows of the stitches if you want them to be a bit bushy. So we are going to get into the next point. So you are going to get into the next point. As I told you earlier, this is a guideline that I'm using to show you. So let's get into the next point. Don't mind the number of rows that I've made. So let's get into the next point. After completing the rows of 65 of 60, after completing 10 rows of 65 stitches, you are just again going to skip this stitch over here and slip stitch onto the next stitch. Then after that, you increase the next round by 5. So if you have made 65 stitches on this stitch over here, we'll be making 70 stitches. So just chain 70 stitches. Then after that, I'm going to show you where to join this. I've completed chaining 70 stitches. So after that, let me align the top. So just remember to align your top so that you can find the point where you are going to slip stitch onto the next. So what I'm going to do over here, I'm just going to slip stitch onto this stitch over here. So this is the stitch where we made 10 rows of 65 stitches. So I'm just going to skip this stitch over here, then slip stitch onto this stitch over here again. So I'm just going to slip stitch onto the next stitch after skipping a stitch. So I will slip stitch onto this stitch over here. So after doing that, I'm just going again to chain 70 stitches. Then after that, I'm just going to slip stitch onto this stitch over here. So so all the 70 stitches rows should come from this point and they should end on this point. So you are going to repeat this for the next 5 rows. So you should make 5 rows of 70 stitches. So repeat that, then after that I'll be here to show you what to do next. So after making 5 rows of 70 stitches, you are going to move on to the next stitch. And remember how I showed you on how to move to the next stitch. So what you are going to do is skip this stitch over here, then slip stitch onto the next stitch. Then after that, you'll get into the next row. And onto the next row, we'll be increasing the row by 5 stitches. So on this row over here, we are going to chain 75 stitches. So just chain 75 stitches. Then after that, we are going to attach the chain on the other side, and remember we'll be skipping a stitch, then attach it onto the next side over here. So you just skip this stitch over here. So remember, this is the stitch that you worked on. You skip this stitch over here, then slip stitch onto this stitch after making the 75 stitches. So after that, you are going to repeat 5 chains of 75 stitches. So that is what you are going to do for the top. So let me chain 75 stitches. Then after that, you just repeat the same pattern until you achieve the length that you want for the top. So I increased my top until I achieved a chain which had 105 stitches. So remember, we'll be from this point we'll be making 5 rows which contain the number of stitches. For example, here what we have made 5 rows of 75 stitches. So after that, we are going to skip a stitch. Then onto the next stitch we'll be chaining 80 stitches, and after chaining 80 stitches we'll be making 5 rows of 80 stitches, 5 rows which have 80 stitches. Then after that, you just skip a stitch again and make 5 rows which have 85 stitches. Then after that, again skip a stitch. Then onto the next stitch you make 5 rows which contains 90 stitches. So you just be increasing it by 5, but if you are a bit thick, you can just increase it by 10 or by 8. So just repeat that until you achieve the length that you want for the top. So I've chained my 75 stitches. I'm just going to attach it onto this point over here. I'm just going to attach it onto this point. So this is the stitch that we worked on. We skip this stitch over here, then we are going to slip stitch onto this stitch over here. Then after that, we are going to make 4 more similar. We're going to make 5 more chains which contain 75 stitches. Then after making them, we are going to skip a stitch over here. So skip this stitch, then slip stitch onto the next stitch, and onto the next stitch we'll increase it by 5. So we'll chain 80 stitches. So just chain 80 stitches. So remember, this is after completing making 5 chains which contain 75 stitches. So I've made one because this is a sample that I'm using to guide you on how to make this shrug. So after making that, you are going to chain 80 stitches. So just chain 80 stitches. Then after that, I'll be here to show you what to do next. So after chaining the 80 stitches, we are going to skip a stitch over here, then slip stitch onto the next stitch. So this is the stitch that we worked on. So skip this stitch over here, then after that slip stitch onto the next stitch. So after that, we are going to make 5 rows. We are going to make 5 chains which contain 80 stitches. They should all start from this point and they should end on this point. So I've told you the reason why I'm not making my 5 chains. So make 5 chains which contain 80 stitches each. So after that, we are going to skip a stitch, then onto the next stitch. So skip this stitch over here, then onto the next stitch, make a slip stitch. Then after that, we are going to chain 85 stitches. So just chain 85 stitches. Then after that, I'll be here to show you what to do next. I've completed chaining 85 stitches. So what I'm going to do next, I'll skip a stitch. So this is the stitch that we worked on. I'll skip this next stitch over here. Then I'm just going to slip stitch onto this stitch. I'm just going to slip stitch onto this stitch. Then after that, make 4 more rows. Make 4 more similar rows. Remember, we'll be making 5 rows. We will be making 5 rows which contain 85 stitches each. So make sure that you make 5 rows. So I've explained the reason why I'm not doing that. So make 5 more rows, and they should all be starting from this point and they should be ending on the other point. So after that, you are going to skip a stitch over here. So skip this next stitch over here. Then after that, slip stitch onto the next stitch. So slip stitch onto this next stitch over here. Then after that we are going to chain, we are going to increase this by 5, so we are going to chain 90. Then after that I'll be showing you what to do next. Completed chaining 90 stitches, so this is what I have. So if you are doing this pattern, you should see the stitches are increasing. So this is what I have. I'm just going to slip stitch it over here. So skip this stitch over here. So this is the stitch that you worked on. We'll be skipping this stitch, then slip stitch onto the next stitch, then make 5 rows. So make 4 more similar rows. Remember they will contain 90 stitches, and you should have 5 rows that contains 90 stitches. So after that, you are going to, after slip stitching, you're just going to skip. So just skip this stitch over here. So this is after making 5 rows which contain 90 stitches each. So after that you are going to skip this stitch over here. Then after that slip stitch onto the next stitch, and after slip stitching we'll increase by 5. So we'll be chaining 95 stitches. So just chain 95 stitches. Then after that I'll be here to show you what to do next. So after chaining 95 stitches, we are just going to skip this stitch. So this is the stitch that we worked on. We are going to skip this stitch over here, then slip stitch it on this stitch over here. So after that we are going to make 4 more rows which contain 95 stitches. So make 4 similar rows. Then after that, and remember they will be all starting from this point, then ending to this point. Then after making 5 rows which contain 95 stitches each, you are going to skip a stitch, then slip stitch onto this stitch over here. Then after that you'll be chaining 100 stitches. You are almost done making this top, so keep on going. So chain 100 stitches. Then after that I'll be here to show you what to do next. So after chaining 100 stitches, what you'll do next, this is the stitch that you worked on. You just skip the next stitch. You skip this stitch over here, then you slip stitch onto this stitch over here. So after that you are going to repeat 4 more rows of 100 stitches. So the rows should contain 100 stitches. So you should always make 5 rows which contains 100 stitches each. So repeat that until you have 5 rows which contain 100 stitches each. So after that, after skipping a stitch, then slip stitching onto the next stitch, you are going to chain 105 stitches. So just chain 105. Then after that you just slip stitch it onto this stitch over here. So skip a stitch, then slip stitch it onto this stitch over here. Then after that make 4 more rows which contain 105 stitches each. So you should always make 5 chains, and onto that 5 chains, you should make 5 rows, and onto that rows they should all contain 95 stitches each. So that is it. Hope this tutorial was helpful. So if there is a part where you have not understood, you can just check on my description box for the pattern, or you can just ask a question on the comment section, and I'll be here to guide you. Please don't forget to subscribe to my channel so that you can motivate me to keep on going and to keep on posting. There I have a lot of design that I'm coming up with, so just subscribe to my channel so that you can't miss out on my next video. Bye. I have a skirt for this shrug. So if you want to make this set, you can just click on my description box to get the tutorial over there. So bye, see you on my next video. I'll be posting a video, I think I'll be posting a video on Saturday, and I'll be crocheting a Valentine set. So just subscribe so that you can't miss out on my videos, and don't forget to like this video. So bye, and thank you for watching till the end. Another thing, remember where we chained less stitches. So for example, here I chained 60 stitches. So this is the upper part of the shrug. This will always be the upper part of the shrug, and this, where there are more stitches, this will be the lower part of the shrug. So that is it. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel. Bye.